We're dealing with a global pandemic. Um, there's a lot going on throughout our city, throughout our country. Um, just in general, how do you see your work, just being an assistant district attorney, how you see how has COVID-19 impacted the work that you do?
COVID-19 has really changed all aspects of what we're doing, frankly, both as when you think of downtown line assistant district attorneys, and both in the role I'm very fortunate to be in the community prosecution unit. And I think for the CPU, it is just another layer of events that are occurring that are changing the needs of our community. I think when you're working within the CPU, our constant focus is what's going on in the community, what are the needs of the community, and the COVID-19 crisis has really drastically changed what our needs are in our particularized community.
Let's talk about some of those needs. What have you identified as some of the needs for the Near West Side and District 3, because you also represent District 3, if I'm not mistaken?
Sure, certainly. I think that certainly coming from my vantage point and viewpoint, safety is always a concern. And I think certainly safety has been at the forefront of our needs in the midst of COVID-19. Not only safety as we traditionally think of it, or sort of crime and disorder happening in the community, but public health safety, making sure that our residents get good factual information to protect themselves from this particular disease. Also keeping in mind, which we certainly have now tried to with the homeless initiative that the Near West Side has kind of taken on through this, recognizing that because of this public health crisis, it is now affecting us not only in a safety aspect, but also in an economic aspect. And we might have, folks who are economically not stable, housing insecure in ways that we haven't seen, certainly within the past 5 years that Near West Side Partners have been together. And frankly, we might be seeing some of the economic stability that we saw back in 2008 when we kind of had a last economic downturn. So we want to be at the forefront of what do we think our community is going to need to just kind of keep trucking along and power through this, because we're really confident we will get through this.
Jessica, we serve these different populations in the Near West Side, and we talk about the homeless population and this. And you mentioned this economic impact. What are we seeing when it comes to our homeless population? How are they being affected in this new reality that we all live in?
Well, I think the really good news is that we have, not only through Near West Side Partners, but the community and intervention team downtown, we have a really great group of community partners together to try to mitigate really any sort of impact as much as we can. I think what's really great news right now is that we have not seen an uptick in any sort of large group gatherings or encampment gatherings that we had seen in summers past. That groups like Housing First, which is a county funded organization, has social workers and outreach specialists out in the community on staggered shifts all the time, looking for folks that might be homeless or housing insecure and trying to kind of set up shop, set up a home in areas that are not good for the public and frankly not good for them. And there are these resources available for folks, and a lot of times it's literally just being able to help folks connect to those resources.
I know I've worked with a number of different groups. I think about the Franciscan Peacemakers. I think about our work with Neighborhood House, Central City Churches. There's a number of different groups, MCFI. What are some of the resources that you're aware of that some of the homeless populations, specifically in Riverside, and for that matter, District 3, um, can tap into what's out there, what's available. I know the Milwaukee Rescue Mission is available, but they also have cut back on their capacity. So how are we getting, what groups are out there supplying resources? How are we getting those connected to our homeless population?
Sure. Thankfully, there are so many resources. And like I said, I think that a lot of times the struggle is just making sure that people get in touch with the right resources. So you certainly, Keith mentioned the Milwaukee Rescue Mission, which is a great partner in the near West Side. We also have the guest house not far from the near West Side that we are continued to work with, as well as St. Ben's that provides food. I think what's critical and what's key is that we are utilizing certainly social services. So if people are out in the community and they need resources, 211 is a number to call and a great place to start. We also recognize that a lot of people might not have access to that, and that's really how we engage our community partners, MUPD, the 3rd District, certainly near West Side partners, to get myself as your community prosecutor information, and we can connect folks to Housing First. We are providing the information that we get to Housing First so that they can then try to make contact with folks. A lot of work has been done downtown, and because we neighbor downtown, and District 1 is such a great partner for us, that our District 1 community prosecutor, Kelly Hedge, she is out with Housing First and District 1 officers making contact, making connections, so that the population feels really safe and feels that they're folks that they can count on and listen to and rely on. And then that's kind of how we then transition folks into, initially short-term housing, and then hopefully into long-term stable housing.
Jessica, I'm curious, what would be the guidance that you would give to those who may see a homeless individual and they are interested in helping that person in some way? I would preface this that I probably would imagine that you probably would not encourage giving, if they're panhandling, that you would discourage people giving money. If you want to talk about that, please do. But in general, what would be the process as a resident or a community stakeholder who wants to assist an individual? What do we do? What's available to us, and how do we connect that to the homeless population?
Sure. And Keith, you certainly bring up an excellent point. We do discourage folks from giving to the panhandlers, and it almost seems a little heartless to say, and it's one of those things we're trying not to be heartless with that, because everyone can see that, and I think empathize, and that's a great thing that you feel like you can immediately do. But what we've really found out over the years is a lot of folks who are actually engaging in that activity aren't homeless. And they're not housing insecure. A lot of times those folks do have places, and they'll actually travel to those spots because that is a quick and easy way to make money. It is always a challenge, and certainly to try to identify, folks that you might be dealing with on the street. I would certainly exercise caution if you feel that you would want to engage. We actually had a really nice discussion with Chief Hudson from MUPD, and her advice to students is really, don't engage because you're just not sure of that particular person's circumstances. But if you want to, or if you feel you can always ask if someone's okay, if they would like you to call 211 for them to get some services. resources. And I really think if you're really concerned, contacting either MUPD through their non-emergency number, contacting District 3 through a non-emergency number, or frankly, contacting the Near West Side Community Prosecution Team, and just giving details what you're seeing, where you're seeing it, because then we can get that information to the working group that can go out. And like I had mentioned before, it's a work in progress, and there is a lot of time and energy that is taken by these groups to develop rapport with individuals. Oftentimes it's not as easy as just meeting someone and then having someone accept your help. A lot of times our community intervention specialists are meeting with folks time and time again before they are okay and feel comfortable enough
Mm.
to accept help. And I think that that's key. You want people to feel comfortable. And really, even with when we had kind of the encampment downtown,
Mm.
that we have been able to, break up and find those folks housing. It was the same officers, our community prosecutor for downtown, Callie Hedge, housing first, going down there day after day after day. So people don't feel like, they just, the officers just want me to disperse. They just don't want me here. It's really building a rapport with folks and being like, this is not the best way to be living. This is not healthy, not only for you, but for the community at large. And let's get you to a place where you have housing stability.
I would say this is a question for me that I think many probably would have in regards to the homeless population. And a lot of times I ask my homeless brothers and sisters that we see um, who may have suffered from trauma and addiction, what's on the other side? Like, how do we know that the programs and the funds that we give to support our homeless population, where is it? Where does it? Are they being connected to services that will help them if there's a mental illness? Are they being connected to services that will help them if there's an addiction, if there's trauma? In other words, what is on the other side of the help that we so often want to give or support for homeless individuals?
That is excellent, Keith. You've really identified a lot of issues. It is not housing. Homelessness and housing insecurity isn't just kind of this one-dimensional issue. Very often, you do find folks that are suffering from trauma, addiction. Unfortunately, I think everyone recognizes there are a large number of past veterans wind up because of trauma, homeless or housing insecure in one way or another. I think what's really important for all of us to understand is, it's hard to treat and to address those other issues, any sort of trauma or addiction type issues, if you don't have a stable residence, if you don't have a stable place to be, when all you're focused on is your day-to-day survival. Where is going to be my shelter for overnight when it's 32 degrees in the middle of the winter in Wisconsin? Where is my next meal coming from when my stomach is hungry? And when that becomes your singular focus, you're not worried about any sort of, you're not worried about fixing or addressing any sort of trauma or addiction. So I think certainly from Housing First, and a lot of the community intervention team, there are resources that we put folks in touch with. It's great to have partners like the VA when there are veterans. You hear about intervention courts when people come into the criminal justice system. Our drug treatment court program is phenomenal at trying to address the root cause of a lot of these issues. We also have a veteran treatments court program. So we have a lot of community partners, whether that be behavioral health division, the Veterans Administration, our community partners that provide drug treatment counseling. We do have those partnerships, but especially with our homeless population, our first concern is we need to get you in a stable residence. And then we can refer you to the resources and start working on those other issues so you don't wind back up on the street again. But it really kind of all starts with housing.
Wow. It seems like that our homeless um, challenge that we have to get people, if I can use that term, Jessica, to get people into stable housing. Um, it seems pretty nuanced, and it seems like there's a lot of players and people involved. I'm curious from your thoughts, like who's all involved with this, knowing that there is, we mentioned addiction, we mentioned stable housing, we mentioned our unstable housing. Like, who's all involved with some of these resources and some of these processes to make sure that we're connecting with our homeless brothers and sisters, we are identifying what their needs are, and we're connecting. I mean, that seems like quite a lot of work.
It is. And I think in the Milwaukee community, we are really lucky to have a large number of folks really dedicated and interested and want to see change in this particular issue. I probably, Keith, could probably spend 15 minutes talking to you about all the different groups involved in this. And I think what really becomes critical and kind of our point group really becomes housing first. They are, they work with all of our different groups. They work with Near West Side Partners, Marquette University. They work obviously with the business improvement districts, through us with Near West Side and downtown, the community prosecution teams in District 3, District 1. And then they certainly work with all the variety of groups that are providing help: Salvation Army, St. Ben's, Guest House, Hunger Task Force. So we just have this really great network of groups willing to help. And so I think you've correctly identified one of the challenges is, how do I make sure that I'm getting the information where it needs to go? And certainly I would say for anyone involved in the Near West Side, our businesses, our residents, our anchors, the places certainly to start is through the Near West Side CPU team, Marquette University Police, and District 3, because that information is going to get to us and then we can get it to housing first. And because we are a partner, they understand that when information is coming from us, that MUPD is giving them information usually from what MUPD has seen happening in and around campus. I'm giving information from what folks have seen in the Near West Side, and we can really give them target and identifiable information. So that's what I would certainly suggest to our residents, our partners, and our anchors.
As we wrap this up, is there anything that you would want to add as far as how Near West Side Partners and the Near West Side has responded that's maybe a little bit different from what you've seen across the city? I know that we have some unique partnerships, work with Marquette University, MUPD, and maybe it's not as unique, but I think they're unique. Any insight as far as our response, the Near West Side Partners or the Near West Side response, as far as working with all our players who live, for the people the organizations who are in the Near West Side?
Well, to be just real honest, Keith, I think that the Near West Side takes a leadership role in certainly a lot of issues in our community. And I would say our homeless intervention initiative would be exactly the same. We are very lucky to have this partnership. We are very lucky to have the support of all 5 of our anchors that have really said, we want to see just how great, this neighborhood is phenomenal. These 7 neighborhoods are wonderful, and let's showcase that. And so through our homeless intervention team, we've been able to connect with other groups, specifically, really taking a focus on our area and say, yes, we understand that, especially when we started this, kind of when COVID-19 was just happening. It's not like at that particular time we were seeing an uptick or anything like that, but it was us coming together and saying, hey, we recognize that our economic landscape is changing. We recognize that our public health landscape is changing. We recognize that this could be something that will really start impacting our area. So let's be out in front of it. Let's
Mm,
start working. Let's start trying to identify any sort of issues that we're seeing. Really, let's just be the leader
mm.
on this type of issue. And I think that that is certainly a strength that we have in the Near West Side that other communities just aren't as lucky to have.
Well, we're lucky to have you, Jessica. You have done some amazing work. I'm actually surprised by your energy and your focus. I'm like, man, there's a lot going on. Anything else that you would give for those who are listening as far as guidance? I don't want to necessarily advice, but just guidance on when we look at the homeless population. To be honest, I would share with you that I think sometimes it becomes disheartening because you see so many people sometimes as you drive through the communities, just throughout the city, Milwaukee itself, that you want to help, and like I feel so helpless because does it make sense for me to help, and if it does, and I follow what how we can support these other agencies, will that have any impact? So I'm just any last words on that, and encouraging people how their support and um, their ability to help others actually makes a
You,
difference.
yeah, Keith, I think there is a lot of heart in what you say, because I think a lot of people feel that way. And I think that that's a positive, that when you see folks, your natural inclination is, you feel bad, you want to help. What can I do? A dollar here or a dollar there isn't solving the problem. And I think that is why it is important. If you see that, if you're seeing something, especially, folks maybe with a lot of items that seem like they're kind of setting up shop,
Mhm.
that's the great time to be letting us at the Near West Side CPU know, Marquette or District 3, so we can address that. But as far as, just, folks, standing outside, what's really key, and I've highlighted it before, is, to save your cash. And if you want to take that $5, donate it to a
Mhm.
larger group, because that larger group has buying power. If you donate to the Hunger Task Force, your $5 is going a lot further than you could personally buy in a grocery store, right? Because they can buy in bulk. So it's, we have throughout the Near West Side, and especially kind of in our busy intersections, like over near 35th and Cliveborn, our Keep the Change signs. And there is actually a
Mhm.
link on the Keep the Change signs, and that's a City of Milwaukee sign, that there's just a lot of resources in which you can donate to. So if people have the monetary ability to donate to a larger organization, a rescue mission, a Salvation Army, the Hunger Task Force, Housing First accepts donations, and they're doing great work. If you have the ability, that would be, I think, the biggest suggestion I could make is save your dollar here, save your dollar here. And when you can, give to those organizations, because their buying power is just going to go a lot further and can certainly help folks on just a larger level.
Well, Jessica, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time out to speak with me. I know you're doing quite a bit when it comes to the Near Side, and making sure that the work can still be done at the courthouse and all the other places that you work, areas you work in. So we appreciate it. We do have a small favor from you. If people want to, as we wrap this up, last question: if people want to connect with you, how do they provide? How do they connect with you? How do they send you information on the individuals they may be concerned with?
Okay, so I can certainly, the easiest way to connect with myself is through my email. And I don't know if Keith, if we can have that posted
I
with the
posted
video.
this video, and it's in on the link of our post. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I think that's going to be the easiest. My email, I think we could also include Bobby's email as our outreach coordinator, because him and I are constantly contacting. I think that's going to be the first and easiest way to get folks information in a really timely fashion.
Okay.
So we'll have it posted, but for the viewing audience, I'm Jesica with one S. Jesica.Ballenger, Ballenger, at da.wi.gov. So that's where you can reach me, and we'll have that information posted.
Thank you. I appreciate Jessica, and we're going to end up this conversation. Please do hang on the line.
All right. Thanks, Keith.
So I have no idea if it's stopping. So what I'm gonna do is, you know what? Stop recording. What I'm gonna do is, Jessica, um, we on the phone again with the interns. What time?
At noon.
At noon. So I will connect with you then. What I want to do is, when I tell my thought process is that this should actually be a part of a multimedia blog post where I am going to take clips of what your answers and
Sure.
incorporate them along with the blog. So what is the Nearwestside Partners doing about the Nearwest, about homelessness? And so we would start off with some of the things in our last meeting from yesterday and some others, and then I would take clips and then put them inside the blog of some of your conversations. And so I think that's great. I think thanks for doing this too. I want to continue to keep highlighting the work that we're doing, and you're doing some great work. So what I do is let's connect at noon, and we could talk to some of these interns. I give you a chance to get a bite to eat.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'll see you in 15 minutes.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, Keith.
Bye.